Hello, everybody that is joining in and tuning in today. We'll let you all get situated and in your virtual seats. Hello, everyone, and happy Black History Month. We're excited that you all are entering in for this afternoon's event. So before we begin, we would love to know who all is joining us. So to do that, first locate that chat button you see at the bottom of your screen and change who sees your chat to all panelists and attendees for us. If you're a VCU graduate, share with us your graduation year and which program you graduated from. If you're a current student, you can still do the same. And let us know when you're graduating and from what program. If you are here to support one or more of our fabulous panelists or just to join in on today's much anticipated discussion, just let us know who you are too and where you're tuning in from. So right now, according to my background, I am on campus at VCU. So let us know where you all are from. And it's okay to say, tuning in from my couch, from my home office. That would be much appreciated. So we'll let people come on in and we'll get started shortly. Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. All righty. And again, you want to change it to all panelists and attendees to let us know who you are and where you're tuning in from. So like I said, if you want to go ahead and change that to all panelists and attendees. And if you're a VCU graduate, just share with us your graduation year and where did you graduate from. All righty. Perfect. So I will let us go ahead and get started because I know that this is going to be a great conversation and I want as much conversation to happen as possible. So welcome everyone to our final panel in the Lift Every Voice Black Alumni Across the Industry panel series, featuring our alumni in the politics and public service industry. My name is Letitia Taylor, and I am the Director of Alumni Career and Personal Development with VCU Office of Alumni Relations. Before I turn it over to our wonderful moderator for today's conversation, I would like to go over just a few housekeeping points. So we will be recording this afternoon's event. So don't worry if you blinked a little too hard and missed a few seconds of the discussion, a recording will be available. There's also live closed captioning available that you should see now. So at the bottom of your screen, once clicked, select show subtitles from the menu. If you are having issues accessing this feature, message our VCU alumni chatbot for assistance with that if you need it. I would also like to thank those that were able to submit questions for our panelists while registering. We will try to get to as many questions submitted as possible, but feel free to submit questions via the Q&A pane of the control panel that you should see at the bottom of your screen as we get through today's conversation. We will continue with questions that have been submitted during the event if time allows. Lastly, with respect for our time, during this 1 hour long event, we have placed a link in the chat for you to conveniently learn more about our moderator and panelists. Without further ado, I would now like to turn it over to our moderator, 2010 Mass Communications alumna, Shondalise Duster, who is a politics reporter covering breaking news in Washington, D.C. Take it over.
Thank you so very much, Letitia. I'm very happy to be here. And as Letitia mentioned, our panelists' full bios can be found with the link that was placed down in the chat. So I will be providing a very, very brief intro for our panelists to welcome them to the conversation. So today we will be hearing from 2005 L. Douglas Wilder School of Government and Public Affairs alumnus, Lawrence Anderson, who is Chief of Staff for Baltimore's City Council President in Baltimore, Maryland. Hello. And we will also hear from 2016 School of Business alumna, Brittany Gathers, former African-American vote director for the Biden-Harris Florida Coordinated Campaign, and the African-American Outreach Director for the Florida Democratic Party in Tallahassee, Florida. Welcome. And last but not least, we will hear from 2001 L. Douglas Wilder School of Government and Public Affairs graduate Leah Walker, Director for Equity and Community Engagement at the Virginia Department of Education in Richmond. Thank you. Thank you all so much for being here. So let's jump into our first question. As we know, it's been a lot that's happened in terms of race and a racial reckoning the past year, the past couple of 4 years, if you want to take it back a little further. And looking at where you all work and what you guys do in your work every day, how would you say your identity has shaped how you have navigated your career and even shown up at work? And I will let Brittany start us off with her answer.
Thank you so much, Shondalise. So that's a really interesting question. I think how my identity's shaped up how I've navigated the workspace. Generally, I'm either the only Black person or I'm usually the youngest in many of the roles that I've had kind of in politics. And so I think it's just like an all eyes on me type situation where it's like, I know like I have to perform because if I don't, like other people who look like me will not be in this space. And so I think that's really important when you show up to a space. And I think just being your authentic self has been really helpful and made me successful and stand out against my peers. And that's definitely something I've taken with me throughout my career. So
that's deep. So Lawrence, how would you say your identity has shaped how you've navigated your career?
I'll take it and go the opposite way. I think my identity, one as a Black male, a Black man, two as coming from, I guess, a family that wasn't politically involved, and knowing how necessary later on that involvement is in, your government responding to you. So, I just basically took that on as, if not me, then who? And so, I just carried that with me throughout it. And that has led or navigated my decision-making throughout that process. So, what you see is what you get. Positives and negatives, and I've experienced both sides of it all. But, I think that it has, and will continue to, shape how I move in this space. And as Brittany said, that authentic self, if you don't bring that authentic self, you can't add value to the conversations that are taking place, because that voice that you represent, each person individually, has to be heard. And you have to be able to give voice to that by standing in your own truth.
That's good. What about you, Leah?
Well, I think that in some ways, I agree with everything the other panelists have said, but also disagree in some sense, in that I think this time that we find ourselves in today, I am embracing, rejecting like the notion of I have to be perfect because I'm Black and I work in public service, or I'm an executive at the public service level. Everyone else is allowed to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes and grow. And African Americans who work in public service and in politics need to demand that same equity in terms of who is allowed to fail, who is allowed to make mistakes, who are given opportunities for professional development and growth. And so I think as African Americans in the space of public service and politics, I've worked in both, actually started my career on the political side and now work on the public service side. And one of the things that, people who know me will say, I say this all the time, right? Like there's 3 things in life I have to do: stay Black, die, and love the Lord. And I carry that into my work every single day. That's who I am. But I can be grounded in that because at the root of my professional career, I started working in a space, I worked for Bobby Scott, right? And Bobby Scott is chairman of the House Education Committee now. He is the dean of the Democratic Party in Virginia. He is the highest ranking, longest serving elected official, and he's African American. And when you start your career in a space like that, there are just some things you know and some things you just are not going to do. And so, I live in that privilege, and I appreciate that foundation that was set for me very, very early on, as grounding and staying true to who my authentic self is, and not subscribing to these white institutional notions of what Black excellence looks like.
And that's really important that you pointed that out. And I want to go to the next question that I have, which really is about toning down Blackness, right? Have you ever had to hide or tone down your Blackness in order to break into your profession? Sometimes we hear it as, I'm not acting my color, or not want to be seen as the angry Black woman or the angry Black man when I speak out and say certain things, or if I have a disagreement when I'm seen in these spaces where there's not many people who look like me. And either one of you can take that question first.
Just jumping on the back of Leah's previous comments, I think part of coming to grips with that is experience. I began my career with the question of, could my authentic self navigate these spaces, right? But I didn't know how to be anybody else. So I just had to, do what I knew how to do. And there's a result that comes with that, particularly in politics, because optics matter. Other people's comfort with you matters. But as Leah said, it comes a point in time where you have to reject that particular notion, because you're human just like everyone else. And you will spend more time worrying about that than bringing to bear the knowledge and skills that you possess. And so, over time, and you may be able to hear it in both Leah and I, having gone through the gamut of it all, this particular time right now, it's like enough is enough. I'm going to be me. I'm going to stand up for what I believe is right, and you're going to accept it, because that's where the world is right now. So as far as toning it down, I've always had a problem with that notion in itself. And at this point in time, that you can miss me with all of that.
I think one of the really critical tools we need to have as Black leaders in whatever profession we're in is the ability to utilize the language and the vocabulary to challenge those microaggressions and those reframings, right, of our point of view in a negative stereotypical way. So when someone says to me, well, Leah, you might want to tone it down because you don't want to be perceived as the angry Black woman, my response to that is, A, I am an angry Black woman. And if you're a Black woman and you're not angry, then you're probably not paying attention. So that's number one. I actually don't reject that, and I don't embrace that as a negative stereotype. Secondly, tell me exactly what is the language that I am using that is aggressive. Tell me the words that I said that are inappropriate. Tell me what I conveyed in my messaging, in my communication style that has you to perceive that I am angry. Because if I am asking you then to break down those things, what you will find is that it's really just about the fact that I'm speaking passionately about the work that I do, because the work that I do matters to the communities that are of interest to me. And it matters in a way that is more real than it might matter to you. So in my job is to dismantle systemic racism from our public education system. That matters to me. Right? It matters to me because it matters to my kids. It matters to my nieces and nephews. It matters to the people I hang out with on the weekend. It matters to my community. And it's what God sent me to this planet to do. I'm going to speak with passion. I am going to be, a fierce advocate for what is right. And if you can't process that because this isn't personal to you, that's your problem. That's not my problem. That's actually not my problem. And I'm not going to let you make it my problem. But to Lawrence's point, that takes experience. It takes not being afraid to be fired. right? Like I was thinking about this the other day. Like, I am not afraid to be fired. I am not going to compromise my integrity and who I am as an African-American woman and leader who has been afforded an opportunity to shape and form public policy as it relates to children in our public education system. I am not going to compromise my integrity in that space because I'm afraid somebody's going to fire me. I'm just not.
Amen to that. Brittany, what about you? I see you over
I
there
love
shaking
that.
your head.
A lot of my jobs, I used to always keep like a resignation notice on me. Like I'd always have it ready. Like I've always been one to like save my money in case I'm like, all right, I have to go because, you know, I know my worth and, you know, if I have to go, I have to go. But, you know, I think when you think about when you first kind of entered into your profession, I don't think that I've had a moment where it's like, oh, I need to tone down my Blackness. I think in every space that I've been hired, it's like you hired me to do a job and I'm going to show up as myself. And so I think that's been really important and something I've carried with me and something I've definitely instilled in like any of my mentees or like people who've come after me, because I think it's just so important. So.
Yeah, and it really says something that how, like you said, that you've been prepared to have a resignation letter ready in case, or a backup in case you were to get fired because of how we have been perceived in certain spaces for speaking up and being ourselves and being authentic and just being unapologetic about it. So my next question I have for you all is, how do you deal with the imposter syndrome, being a Black professional working in a white dominated world? You know, sometimes in our careers, we may feel like, oh yeah, I got hired to do this job, but then you may have a feeling of, can I really meet the moment? Can I really do this? Even though you may have your white counterparts over here who may not have as much experience as you, but they're still being promoted left and right. So how do you deal with that imposter syndrome that we may have sometimes?
I think the quick and easy answer is preparation, right? So if you prepare and you are confident in your preparation, you know you're ready to play the game, right? And then you layer on top of that the notion that we were all told when we were growing up that you have to be twice as good to get half as much. But if you really dig into that statement, I'm twice as good. So if I'm twice as good and I'm right here, then there's no question whether I can do the job or whether I can actually get this thing done. The third thing for me, and I learned it in my first professional experience outside of grad school, I was at the Department of Homeland Security, and I was working with this group of folks that were from the Harvards, the Yales, the GWs. And we're sitting in a meeting, and I heard some of the craziest things. And it was no question that I could hang and was better than some of them. So that imposter thing that I may have went into with quickly went away once I started to pay attention to what was around me. I know how I had prepared. I knew that or had the confidence that I could get the job done. And I paid attention to what was around me. And when you look at what's around you, you know that you're just as good as anybody else. And it's just a matter of you being able to execute on that and giving that imposter mentality more time takes away from your ability to do what you know how to do. And you just got to go. You just got to move.
That's powerful. What about you, Leah?
I think that one, I don't think I ever had imposter syndrome, and anyone who knows me probably would say that's fair. But I think more so, right, like what we are experiencing is this ceiling, right? That despite our best efforts, despite our overqualification, our overeducation, our many, many years of vast professional experience, we are finding that those executive C-suite positions are continuing to go to mediocre white men. Listen, I'm just going to say it because that's what it is. And the public service, the public sector is not exempted from that. I will say, though, that throughout my career, I've had, fortunately, I think it's a unique experience. I've never really worked in an environment that was predominantly white. My public service career has been in Virginia. My first job was working for Congressman Bobby Scott. And from there, I went to work for local government and the Virginia General Assembly. Even when I worked for the Virginia General Assembly in the early 2000s, it wasn't predominantly white. What is interesting though, is that where I find myself positioned today, it is the least diverse space I have ever worked in my entire professional career. And it is in a space, right, that serves a population of individuals who are predominantly minority, right? Like, so like 52% of our student enrollment is actually students of color. But our state agency, which is tasked with regulating our public education system, does not mirror that diversity that we see in our student population or even our population in general. And so I think that the notion of, and quite frankly, listen, we got to say this too. Black women saved the democracy, right? Like that actually happened in 2020. It was Black women, it was Stacey Abrams, it was Kamala Harris, it was Black women who saved our democracy. And so we're talking about politics and public service, we got to say that. So the whole like notion of Black women, Black people, Black professionals, Black public administrators, Black political hacks, that's what they call them in the political world, right? We're not imposters. You can't succeed without us. And what we have to do is, right, like leverage that positionality and that power and that influence to support our interests and to bring others along with us.
Brittany?
So I think one time I definitely had a little imposter syndrome. So I actually was promoted into my role. I was in like a regional role at the party. I maybe had been there like 7 months. And then the next thing they know, they're like, hey, you're getting promoted. You're going to be statewide African-American outreach director. And I'm like, okay. I was like, what did I do to deserve this, but be Black? But no, I think, our chairwoman and our executive director kind of like saw what I could do. And I think when I look in political spaces, I think a lot of the Black people are more qualified than many of our white counterparts in the spaces that I've seen and worked. And so, I think after I kind of realized that, like, no, I deserve to be here. And no, I've definitely earned this position because I looked at like what I had done and how much I had accomplished in such a short period of time. But it was interesting to have that like aha moment, like, okay, should I really be here or not? But whatever God has intended for you is for you. And so I just walked and took my path. So, and then ended up with another promotion later on. So it worked out.
I feel like, to Brittany's point, right? Like being able to pivot in that moment. And there will be many times along like the spectrum of public service where you will find yourself in a position where you are othered or they want to tokenize you, right? They need your Black face to make their organization look like it's diverse or make it look like it's inclusive or show that they care about minority population. We have to take those positions, those opportunities when they present themselves and reframe the narrative of, well, you thought you were getting like the token Black person who's just so grateful to be at this table that we're going to go along with every little thing that you tell us to do. And realize and recognize, right? It's the year of the Black woman. You ain't gonna tell me what we're gonna do. I'm coming to you with an agenda of issues, of policy recommendations, of informed input that can change the face of our civic discourse and the services that we deploy to our constituency. And like, it's no better time, right, to be Black in public service. I 100% believe that to my core, that we have this moment where we can really, really have an impact in ways that we haven't seen in probably 60 or 70 years.
And I'm really glad you brought that up, Leah. I kind of want to stay there for a second, talking about the role of your white counterparts in your industries. Like you said, we're seeing, where you do have Black faces that get promoted into these roles, especially now it seems like it's a knee-jerk reaction to what happened over the summer and what happened last year. So what do you all feel is the role of your white counterparts in helping to effectuate a more diverse and inclusive industries? You hear the word allyship thrown around a lot, but then, what about advocates in the workplace as well? So which one of you can start on that one? I'll let you guys decide that.
I want Brittany to go first because she's been going last. I want Brittany to go.
Go ahead, Brittany.
So I really think, I think well, it's kind of the same, but I feel like it's slightly different when I look at government, like my government work versus like political work. I think the political space, to me, it's like making sure, in any space, it's making sure that people who don't look like you are in the room, right? But I think in politics, it's like the higher you go up in like in any space, the higher you go up, the fewer people of color you see. But I think that's extremely important, especially in a political campaign where like you have to be reaching out to so many different constituencies and groups that like that voice is needed, and more voices of color are needed, right? Versus in the government space, it's also needed, but I think the like context of it is slightly different. So like I feel like in government, on the lower levels, like in any other kind of area, you know, we have more people of color that kind of can move up the ranks. And sometimes you may get stuck, or you might move or switch agencies. I think it's kind of more promoted to like move around in government work. And so I think you do see a little more diversity on that side. And it's easier to kind of navigate and move around. And so, but again, like in any space, our white counterparts really just need to make sure that we're at the table. So
I have a more harder line perspective on that, and it's simply to move out the way. I mean, Leah eloquently characterized politics over a period in time. Black women definitely saved the democracy. And it wasn't just Black women in politics working as organizers in the field. It was Black women who were developing the message. It was Black women that were interpreting poll results. It was Black women and some Black men operating in strategy. So what can they do? Get out of the way. If we're going to talk to these groups, which look like us, have experiences like us, then we need to be doing more than hanging door hangers or knocking and dropping. There are a bunch of Black firms out there that do polling. They need to get some work. There are a bunch of Black and brown communications firms. They need to be carrying the message, not just the spokesperson, but developing the message from the back end. Everybody knows politics is a money game. And if we're going to change the way that our politics works, we got to be at the table to make some of the money. And that's a broader economic empowerment message, but it's part and parcel. So allyship doesn't mean anything if our Black firms can't get work. And they can't get work because you're choosing to pick someone else over the double qualified firm that has been holding it down since the very beginning. So like the allyship, all of that type stuff, that's cool. But what they need to do is either get out the way and really break down some of these systems that have been in place to enforce the myth of white supremacy. So if you're not talking about that, then we're not talking about nothing, particularly in politics where it's zero sum, 50 plus 1. You got to win.
I think that, gosh, so much on this topic. Wait, so I think that what is my advice to, my white counterparts who want to advance equity, and particularly racial equity? I would say interrogate everything, question everything. Every single rule that has been established in the public sector, you need to question it, because most like that rule was established to maintain systems of oppression. That's just what it is. And when you really start to question that why, right? Like be like a 2-year-old, why? Why do we have to do it that way? Why? Start asking those why questions. That's number one. The second thing is move from the space of being a
Leah, I think we lost you a little bit. We have lost Leah. She comes back, we'll ask her to finish her thought, but I'll go ahead and just let you two, if you have any additional thoughts you want to add to this question.
The only other thing is that, treat people how you would like to be treated, right? So, and that doesn't have to be anything grand, or be quiet, let somebody else talk. Just something simple as that. So, this idea of there needing to be a strategy to be a good person, I reject that notion, right? So how do you make a space welcoming? Well, do the things that you would like to be done if all was fair. I mean, that's simple to me. So, and maybe I'm thinking too simply about it. I don't think I need workshops to tell me to say hello, how you doing, and to actually treat somebody fairly. I think that's a human thing. And the fact of not doing that means that you're attached to some sort of that you have an ulterior motive in that. So, and it's the same thing. If two businesses are competing for work and one is clearly better than the other, go with the best one. And I have no doubt that if you put firms down, we compete. We've proven that, right? But that's not who gets, and I'm speaking specifically to political work, because we all know who's getting the polls. It ain't Cornell Belcher, who has been right since 2004. But he's not getting the major polling work. So it people can talk about being allies and advocates while on the back end still perpetuating those same systems that we all know were intent on maintaining control. They got to let that go. And if they're not willing to let that go, that the conversation is just window dressing.
And Leah, now that we have you back, we'll go ahead and let you finish your thought, because you were on a roll there.
Well,
what you were
I'm
saying.
sorry about that. I don't know what happened, but what I was going to say is, like, this transition from being an ally to being an accomplice to what I call being an actor. And I actually write about this on my blog. Bettina Love, she wrote this book called We Want to Do More Than Survive, right? And it's really about the education space, abolitionist teaching, and the pursuit of freedom. But she talks about this notion of like accomplice, right? So the difference between like an ally and an accomplice and an actor is that, like, an actor actually, it requires you to do something, right? It's not a philosophical notion. You have to actually do something. And, when I think about my own workspace, right, I've had so many times where colleagues have said to me after the meeting, I'm so glad you said that. I agree with you, right? Like, they don't have any problem standing behind you. But at some point, you got to stand beside me and you got to stand in front of me, right? Like, and Bettina Love describes it as the young woman who climbed up that flagpole in South Carolina to take down that Confederate flag. And the law enforcement was standing at the flagpole. And they were thinking, how do we get her down? Because she's not complying with our command. We're gonna put the stun gun on the flagpole, and it's gonna transmit the electricity up. It's gonna electrocute her, and she's gonna fall, and we're gonna get her off of that flagpole. That was the actual plan, okay, of law enforcement. And it was a white person who was standing at the base of the flagpole, who was there as her accomplice. And he heard what they were planning to do. And so he reached over and he put his own hand on the flagpole and said, well, if you're gonna kill her, you're gonna have to kill me too. That's activation. That's being an accomplice. That's putting yourself in the fight for justice. If you're not willing to do that, like Lauren said, just get out of the way. Just move. Just move. We don't need somebody patting us on the back. What we need are people who are willing to stand beside us and get in front of us so that we don't have to pay the black tax every single time there's an issue that comes up and they want to ask us, what should we do?
What should we do? Yeah.
What should we do? And then when you tell them, they're like, well, no, we can't do that.
That is all very powerful, what all of you have said. And we have seen that multiple times, the questions of what can I do? And I think what you all said on that was very, very crucial. You got to be able to speak up when there's a meeting and I'm sitting there and I'm giving my ideas versus coming and telling me that, oh, that's a great idea. you know, I mean, we've been in those situations before. And I even can recall a time where I pitched an idea in a room full of my white counterparts, and it was some pushback on it. And then a white coworker speaks up and they say, "Oh, I like that." And then the whole room is, "Yeah, I like that." And it's like, so I really, really appreciate all of you highlighting that. So now I want to pivot a little bit to your careers and to the academic side of that. And I want to ask you all, what steps did you take to determine how you would use your degree? And did you know before obtaining it what role you would pursue?
I can take that question since I think I'm the closest to having just graduated.
You're the baby, Brittany.
I have 2 business degrees. I got my undergraduate degree in business at VCU, and I had my master's from Florida A&M. And so I thought I was going to go to corporate America and go the corporate route. Like, I had corporate mentors. I was like, okay, I'm going to corporate America. And then it was like, oh, no, you are going to state government. I had done my internship in state government in Virginia. And so I think my career kind of took me in a place that I wasn't expecting it to. Getting this entrenched in politics. Politics for me, while I was at VCU, was always like volunteer based. And, I was an intern for Chair McAuliffe. But it was all just like volunteer based work versus now I'm actually taking paid roles and working more heavily in the political space. So yeah, definitely. I think it's been helpful to have my degrees for sure. I think just having a master's, showing up into spaces like luckily I haven't had to negotiate as hard for salaries. Like, they already know, oh, like you have an MBA in politics. Like, I've gotten the higher end of the salary offers that when I've seen ranges. So that's been helpful. But yeah, it definitely didn't take me where I thought it was going. So
What about you, Lawrence?
No clue, no idea. Like I said, I didn't come from a politically active family. And I was provisionally admitted to the L. Douglas Wilder School of Government and Public Affairs for my master's degree. I tell everybody, I went to undergrad to play football. I didn't go, I got an education because I was at school and people decided to pour in me. And so that opportunity at VCU just exposed me to government and the fact that it could be a meaningful career. But it was my work experience, I guess, lit the fire of being around folks that were making decisions. And those decisions impacted people that had no idea of what was being done on their behalf. And so that's where that, if not me, then who? If I understand the community and I'm being educated in the systems that are impacting the community, then this is where I need to be because I'm not represented here. And so that has been kind of like a guiding post that has kind of helped me navigate my career. And so, and I've worked at all 3 levels of government, and it's different at every single level, so, and where I am now is the tip of the spear. It's local politics. Local politics is completely different than it is at the federal and state level.
It's guerrilla warfare.
Hey, and,
that's what I call it.
And I work in Baltimore. And
right.
So there's levels to this guerrilla warfare, right? So I had no idea that this is where I will be, but I'm in a place where I don't believe I'm going to work every day. I'm doing what I do, and that's a good feeling to have. So
Leah?
For me, I think probably actually more direct line into my profession. I was a undergrad at Hampton, studied political science, went straight from undergrad into graduate school at VCU and got my master's in public administration, mostly because I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with a political science degree. I knew I did not want to go to law school, which is what most people do who have political science degrees. And so it was kind of like, oh, what am I going to do? And I was interning in Bobby Scott's office at the time in Newport News. And the chief of staff was like, you should apply to VCU's graduate program. And I was like, I don't want to be a professor. And she was like, just get your master's degree. And so I did. I listened well, and I went to VCU, and that was before it was named the Wilder School. So that dates me a little bit. And when I finished my master's program, I remember we had to do a capstone project and on what we had learned over the experience. And I remember my capstone project was that I learned that I don't want to be a public administrator, that I never want to be a bureaucrat. That was honestly what my takeaway was at 23 years of 24, had my master's, and I was like, why did I do this? I don't care about the bureaucracy. You know, it's politics is where it happens. I should have studied public policy instead. Interestingly enough, I continued my career in politics for a little bit of time and had the opportunity to work at the local level in politics. I worked at the state level in politics, really on the political side. And when Tim Kaine was elected governor, if there's alum here from the Wilder School, everybody should know Bill Leidy. And Bill Leidy was Tim Kaine's chief of staff at the time. And I met with him, and, you know, I was looking to move out of working for the legislature. And he said, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't really know what I want to do. I just know that what I do has to matter to people. Like, it has to make a difference. And he was like, oh, that's so great. I'm sending you to Medicaid. I was like, Medicaid? What is that? Right? Like, I was like, what am I doing here? Right? And I remember in my meeting with the Medicaid director at the time, I remember her very, just plainly, said it very, very plainly. You don't have any experience at all. And I said, what are you talking about? I've been working for 10 years. But in politics, right? Like, not in the bureaucracy, not in the machine. And so what I'll say about like the difference between political science and the politics side and the public administration side, politics is like the understanding of why. Like, it's the understanding of why our government works the way it does. Public administrators make the government do things, right? And like, this was really, really evidenced during the Trump administration. It doesn't matter what you think and what you know, it matters what you can do. And if you don't know how to make the government do things, if you don't know how to use those levers, if you don't understand procurement rules, if you don't understand contracting, if you don't know how the personnel system works, you can't accomplish anything in government. So there's a difference between being a politician and governance. And public administration is where those two things meet. And so like, we have as public administrators an area of expertise that is unique, sought after, and underpaid, undervalued, right? Like, that's what it is. And we do the work because we care about the work that we're doing. We are the ones who decide how well a policy is going to be implemented and work. We are the ones who decide where the money goes. We are the ones who decide whether your idea that you passed in the legislature is actually going to happen. Because we can design the implementation in a way that it never accomplishes what it's supposed to accomplish. So, you know, I think for me, it's like probably very clear, like political science, public administration. She's a bureaucrat. I've worked for several state agencies. I've worked in various administrations. That's what I do. And now I take pride in being a public administrator, and I laugh at myself for those times, you know, that whole presentation. And my capstone advisor was like, what? You said what? You don't want to be a bureaucrat. And here I am.
Wow.
Let me add this piece to it, that in the offline conversations, Leah and I on the opposite sides of that conversation. I started in the bureaucracy, and now I'm completely on the political side. And I never thought that I would be completely on the political side. That's where I believe my home is. And so I think the ability for my perspective and Leah's perspective to engage in candid conversations about Black policy, Black politics, Black public, that's what moves the ball forward. Because you have to be able to have those types of conversations. And just like you said, the idea gets formed on one part, the get it done gets formed on the other part, And that connective tissue in the middle is where the rubber meets the road. And so when we think about, what's happening or the future of Black America, it rests in that connective tissue, the ability for us to literally turn policy into like action. And by the way, if VCU has not used Leah as a advocate for the Wilder School, they just got to pull this clip. Just pull a clip.
Well, all of you are dropping gems and knowledge today. Like I said, I'm soaking up everything that you all have been saying so far. So I want to ask you all two more quick questions before I go to the audience questions. And so my second to my last question for you all is, in getting where you are today, we've all had to we were guided by somebody. We had somebody pushing us along or, giving us some type of advice. So who were your mentors and how did they impact your career?
I'll take the first stab at this one because mine is very clear and distinct. My first job in politics was in Richmond City Council. And my mentor at that time was a budget director named Rayford Harris. And he had known me from my undergraduate years. And I don't know whether it was him trying to help me or making sure I didn't ruin everybody else's reputation. But I had a meeting with Rayford Harris every Monday that I was in there. Tell me what you did the last week and tell me what you're gonna plan on doing the next week and to make sure that you are right. And my second one was Belle Whelan, Secretary of Education. And at that particular time, if it was any point in time that I would have considered having imposter syndrome, it was that time. I was around a bunch of folks that I didn't know. I was from Virginia State University. They were from these other places. And it was Belle Whelan that told me that I was enough. And that's all I needed to hear. And then the next person was when I got to the Department of Homeland Security. He was a graduate of Virginia State named Carl Mann. And he told me it's not what you think about yourself, it's what other people think about you. And you just have to be cognizant of that. You don't need to let that rule you, but you can't develop a strategy not understanding that part. And I use that piece of advice to this day. So when I bop in City Hall with a backwards baseball cap, I know what that's going to bring, right? Some people are going to look at me and say that he does not understand the gravity of the position that he's in. But they also don't understand that there's some people outside that look at me, walk in and see themselves in me. And that's more important to me. So you got to know what you do is going to have a reaction. You got to be comfortable with that. And those three individuals were milestones in my career that continue to guide me today.
Wow. Brittany?
Yeah, I got kind of different mentors in different areas. So like I actually have like my corporate kind of mentor, because I originally thought I was going to corporate, who's actually a VCU alum, Gail Coles Johnson, formerly AT&T executive. And so I think she's been very helpful to me. I actually met her through our National Black MBA Association. I remember reading through the bios. I was like, oh, I'm going to this conference. And I was like, wait a minute, she went to VCU. And I was like, wait a minute, she's an AKA. I was like, oh my God, let me go find her. And so we've connected ever since. She actually got me involved in the VCU's, our African American Alumni Mentoring Program. So I've been a mentor in that program for about 3 years now. But then I think on the political side, I think there's just a number, I probably have like 10 mentors, which is, I think it's crazy. And it kind of just happened over this last year. And I think I realized how much I needed them and how helpful they were navigating this political space and having to make connections all across the state and all of the work that I had to do. And I think it's one of those things where you take advice that people give you and take it with a grain of salt, because I think, people can give you good advice and sometimes bad advice, but like taking what parts and pieces of that advice and kind of combining it with everything else that you heard and making your own informed decisions, right? And so there's just like a number of former electeds and people throughout the political process, primarily Black women here in Florida who've been extremely helpful to me. So.
Great. Leah?
For me, certainly Bobby Scott. It's where I got my start. I'm not a native Virginian. And so working for Bobby Scott really introduced me to the political world in Virginia. And so I am forever grateful and appreciative of that opportunity. And in fact, and I pride myself on the fact that I've maintained that relationship for over 20 years with Bobby Scott and his staff. And you know, I joke sometimes that when you work for Bobby Scott, it's like joining the mafia because you can't ever leave. But it's just been a wonderful, wonderful experience working for him. Second mentor for me, Dr. Deetra Trent, our former Secretary of Education in Virginia. She's a Hamptonian and also a VCU grad. She got her MPA and PhD from VCU and has just been a wonderful, just big sister. Love her to death. I can't even imagine my professional career or personal life without her as a key advisor to me in my professional pursuits. And then, you know, as my career has evolved, you know, there's other individuals who have really played pivotal roles in positioning me for my next job and for successes. People like Dwight Jones, our former mayor in the city of Richmond, Wayne Turnage, who was a former chief of staff in just consummate bureaucrat in state politics and currently serves as deputy mayor in Washington, D.C. And so I'm saying that to say this: as you grow in your career, evolve your mentorship relationships as well. It doesn't necessarily mean that you leave that mentor that you had when you were, you know, first coming out of school. But as you continue to move and groove into your spaces that you want to be in, you'll find that the type of advice and the type of connections and networking that you're looking to expose yourself to will evolve as well. And so those relationships need to evolve. Be intentional about your professional networking and relationships, right? Like, and don't burn bridges. Like, that's really, really important, especially in politics and public service. Do not burn bridges because you cannot come back from that. It's a very tight-knit world and a very tight-knit community, especially amongst Blacks in politics in Virginia or anywhere else. Everybody knows everybody, right? And so make sure that you take good care of the relationships that you develop and nurture them over time. And then finally, I'll say, you know, get you a core tribe of advisors that like form your own kitchen cabinet. We talk about this in politics all the time. Like, who's your kitchen cabinet? Who's coming to sit at your kitchen table when, you know, your name end up in the newspaper? Because if you stay in this business long enough, your name is going to end up in the newspaper. And I remember I used to always say, like, I don't want my name in the paper unless I'm being promoted, but your name going to end up in the newspaper and it may not be good. And so you need to have a kitchen cabinet of individuals who, you know, for sure have your best interest at heart and who will tell you not what you want to hear, but what you need to hear.
What you need to hear, yeah. I just want to echo that a little bit, because that is, people talk about mentors and they immediately focus on how that's going to advance their career. But my mentors are the individuals that I go to when everything's wrong. Maybe not with my career, but how I'm feeling about what it is that I'm doing now. It has to be an individual that can tell you to get your stuff together, right? They have to be able to say that, and you may get mad, but you know that it's coming from the right place and they mean well, not someone that tells you that you're great and everything's terrific, that you really messed up right there and you need to fix it. And this is how I think you should fix it. That's extremely important, particularly in politics, where for many folks, the easiest thing to do is just to nod and smile. You need somebody to make that frown and say, come over here, let me talk to you for a second.
And the other thing is maintain your relationships from college and graduate school. And I say that because I'm probably the oldest one on this panel, maybe. I'm older than Lawrence, I know that. Here's the thing. I am at a place in my career now where people I went to graduate school and undergrad with are in extreme positions of influence and power. And that I have maintained those relationships with those individuals. And I can still call their cell phone number, even though they might be governor somewhere right now, right? Like I'm exaggerating, but real talk, that's probably gonna happen really soon. Okay. Like, so just like maintain your relationships, take good care of those. You know, you ain't got to talk every week, but stay in touch, because you just don't know, you know, who's gonna end up being. Lawrence and I have a mutual friend, colleague from the city of Richmond. He's a VCU grad as well, Hampton grad. He's the budget director for the city. And Jay Brown, I don't know if he's watching right now, he might be, but Jay Brown. And it's so funny because Jay Brown and I went to undergrad together. And I taught one of the classes he was in as a political science student because he was behind me. And he's the budget director of the city. And I have literally had young people who I have mentored and sent them to Jay. I have had young people who needed help with their coursework. And I have had them call Jay Brown, the budget director for the city of Richmond, helping them with their graduate school homework. Maintain your relationships. You just don't know who those people are going to end up being. You don't know.
Yeah,
Yes,
I definitely agree. I definitely agree.
Yeah.
My classmate from VCU is now running for a House of Delegates seat in Virginia. And like, I talked to him last week. So like, I definitely feel that.
Yes, and that is all so very powerful, you know, especially for the students and for the graduates and alumni as well. You have to maintain those connections with your classmates, with your mentors, because they will help you, and dots connect. There's, you know, you're connecting the dots. Your career is like, you know, dots, and you connect the dots and you'll run into them at some point. And, you know, and maintain good connections too. Don't just fall off. I've definitely had some VCU alumni help me in my career, and who is a mentor and helps me today. And I hate to cut this conversation off. It is so good. We need a part two. I'm gonna go ahead and toss it back to Letitia. I'm so sorry we couldn't get to all the questions that we had, but I guarantee you all, like Letitia probably tell you, it's gonna be another conversation soon. So thank you all so much.
Yes, this is how you close out Black History Month. This was a great conversation. Thank you, Shondelise, for moderating today's conversation. And of course, to our wonderful panelists for your knowledge and expertise and sharing your stories with us. For those that have been able to make it to all of our panel events this month, we thank you so much for tuning in to these much needed conversations. If you are also interested in connecting with alumni like we had on the panel, or even if you're interested in sharing your own knowledge to students and fellow alumni, we would definitely encourage you to check out VCU Link. It is our VCU online community for connecting students, alumni, and friends of the university for career advice, industry contacts, and meaningful professional relationships. So go there to get your kitchen cabinet. Lastly, everyone should now see a link to a short survey to complete so that we can get some feedback and thoughts on today's events and how we can best shape our upcoming events. If you are able to grab the link, if you aren't able to grab the link before we end today, we will also be sending it out via email within 48 hours along with the recording. On behalf of VCU Office of Alumni Relations, we want to thank you for joining us today and have a great rest of your day and a great rest of couple of days of Black History Month. Thank you all so much. Bye. Take care.